Hi, I'm Mary. Welcome to this tutorial on how to learn a headstand. So just a few health and safety points to mention before we begin. Please avoid headstand practice if you suffer from any degenerative disc issues or any structural imbalances in the neck, shoulders and spine. If you need any further information or clarification of these, either speak to your GP or feel free to contact me as well for some further advice. But for now, we will get started on the tutorial. So my first tips really, when you're starting to think about practicing headstands, is to use a wall, because we have this fear of falling. And ideally, if there's someone around, as someone to spot you. In other words, someone to be there to stop you from falling over and to support, maybe holding your legs. But most of us aren't so lucky to have a spotter, so the wall will work really well. You may also want a blanket to place underneath your head, because generally speaking, we're not used to having being on our heads in this way, and sometimes it can feel a little bit uncomfortable. The other option is to roll up your mat a few times to create a little bit more of padding underneath. So we are going to, first of all, talk about some prep poses, some ways to kind of get used to this inverted feeling. Great prep poses are things such as downward facing dog. Dolphin pose is another great one, as well as a wide-legged forward fold, or maybe even placing your legs up a wall, just so you understand that feeling of everything, your head being down and everything being above it, okay? Another thing to just make you aware of is you should not over-practice a headstand. So if I was to ever teach it in a class, we would probably only come into a headstand maybe once or twice in a full 1 hour class. Now that doesn't mean to say that you can't practice it a few times, maybe in succession, but after you've had a go once, you must come back into child's pose, recover your breath, and then maybe have another go, but try not to do it too much, so not too much repetition, okay? So that's just something to really bear in mind so that you can safely practice when you're at home and you're not necessarily within a studio or class setting. So what we're going to do first of all is learn our proper hand placement. So what should be going on when we come into a headstand? Now we're going to talk about, there are different types of course, but we're going to talk about the most, probably the most popular variation, which is to have our fingers interlinked and our head will effectively be supported with our hands. So our hands are going to come towards the crown of the head here. And then the structure is formed from the tripod really, from the head and the elbows and the forearms on either side. So before we get started, we're going to learn this placement really of our hands so that we're safe when we start to play around with using the wall. So you're going to interlink your fingers and you should be able to feel that there's a tennis ball in between your hands. So I want you to imagine you've got a tennis ball and you're holding onto it. So the palms stay open, they don't close shut. That's really important. When a lot of people start practicing, they have their hands tightly clasped together. We want to make sure they stay open. So think about that tennis ball analogy there. And then from here, you're going to place your hands, or the palms, towards the crown of the head, okay? And then you're going to squeeze your scapula and your shoulder blades together. So you can feel your shoulders and your forearms muscles all working here, okay? Press the shoulders down from the ears, and this is how you should feel when you go upside down. So you should feel engaged. We want minimal weight on the head. It's really important when you're starting out that you're not placing all the pressure and the weight in towards the head. You need to take it in towards the forearms. They are your structure. This is your support, okay? So when we do go upside down, we're going to be pressing those elbows actively into the floor to create that same feeling that we just felt there. You're also going to think about when we do go upside down about engaging our core. We're going to think about squeezing our thighs, our inner thighs together. So everything is working super hard to keep us in this upside down structure. Another thing to bear in mind when we're heading into headstand is our alignment. It is very important that we are stacked in one straight line. So we have our neck, our spine, our hips, our legs, all in one straight line, keeping a natural curve in the spine, okay? So that we're not, again, creating any imbalances within the weight distribution. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to have a go at warming up just in dolphin pose. So you can come towards your mat. And we're going to take dolphin pose initially with our hands apart, a little bit closer together. We're going to come onto our forearms here, tuck the feet or the toes under and lift the hips high, fine in dolphin. Head is resting in between our forearms, our biceps. And we're pressing actively, aren't we, in towards those forearms. The elbows are pressing down, palms are pressing here. Take a couple of breaths in dolphin, and then we're going to try the same thing with our headstand kind of position with our hands clasped together, just to feel that sensation before we bring our head in. So now we're going to progress from dolphin pose towards more of a half headstand. So you want to use the wall, just so it's there for safety in case you do topple towards it. Stay about 5 inches away from the wall, so you're reasonably close. We're going to come towards that headstand arm structure, as we practiced before. And then we're going to find almost a slight dolphin on our tiptoes feeling with our legs. So our hips are nice and high. We're going to try and create that straight structure with our neck, our spine and our hips. So let's give it a go. Remember, when we get there, we're going to be pressing actively in with the elbows and the forearms into the floor to relieve the pressure on the head. So, where am I supposed to be balancing on my head? Our hands obviously are towards the crown, we've talked about that. And now to measure roughly where the weight wants to be, place your palm towards your brow, press your hand in, and then wherever the middle finger is where you want to be taking your weight. So the head is quite far, it's in towards the middle of your head, you're not balancing towards the back. Okay, so let's give it a go. Interlink your fingers, we're going to find that structure again, about 5 inches away from the wall. Bring the crown of the head in, press, remember, actively in those elbows into the floor, core is engaged. Feel this pose or position first. Remember, the middle of that head where we just felt should be in towards the floor. And you can always use blankets and things underneath your head if you're starting out. And then when you're ready, you come onto tiptoes and we come more into that sort of dolphin pose. We want the hips to be as high up as possible. Engage the core. This will be down to hamstring flexibility, so you can of course bend the knees if you need to. And stay here for a few breaths. And when you're ready, you'll then start to take one leg up from here, and then maybe find your balance with your core to bring the other one in. Now I am pressing, really pressing in to the floor, so I'm releasing that pressure on my head. Everything is engaged. I'm squeezing those thighs, extending and pointing the toes. Glutes are engaged, core is very active here. So when you've mastered your balance against the wall, you can see I'm not creating the perfect line here, that my feet and my legs are heading backwards. You can start to play with your balance. Remember, you're going to squeeze an active core, legs are going to squeeze as well. And see if you can start to float the legs off the wall. It can be very gradual to start with. Maybe just one, and then maybe the other. And notice the wobbles. Come back to the wall if you need to. Keep pressing and engaging those forearms. Everything is squeezing in. Everything is squeezing, reaching, extending with the toes. And when you're ready, come down. You can either bend the knee or bring one leg down and then the other. Come straight to a child's pose. You must relax. Recover your breath. Now, as I said before, you should give your body time before you maybe try again. So spend some time in child's pose, deep breaths, and we don't want to be repeating this too much. So no more than really, I would advise sort of 3 attempts and then take some time out. Okay, we don't want to be doing lots and lots of headstand practice. I hope this has helped begin your headstand journey. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch. Remember, practice makes progress here. So please be kind to your body and patient. Namaste.